Turaco is exploring with an advanced project in West Africa, in Côte d'Ivoire, called the Afema Gold Project, which I want to focus on today. Just a quick corporate snapshot. Our share price has obviously performed very well. I mean, this time last year was sort of 5 cents today, sort of 23 to 24 cents, but that's been driven by results. We acquired this Afema project back in only March, 25th of March, so just over 4 months ago. We've completed well over 15, probably pushing 20,000 metres of drilling, and I'll run you through some of those results, but you can see very successful drilling results. And within 6 months, so within the next month or so, you'll see a maiden resource, which will be a multi-million ounce resource for this project. The company's very tightly held. We've got some key shareholders there, but probably most pertinent is the top 100 shareholders own about 80% of this company. And most of those shareholders have supported this management team across several companies before, not just one company where we may have got lucky, but several companies, and every company we've made money for our shareholders. Just touching on Côte d'Ivoire and West Africa, I mean, we stand here in the heart of the Australian gold industry, but just to put it in perspective, this year out of Australia, about 10 million ounces of gold will be produced. West Africa will be pushing towards double that at about 20 million ounces of gold. It's a significant, one of the most significant gold regions of the world. But most relevant for a company like Turaco is the discovery success. This is where value is created for companies such as Turaco. So in the last 10 years, nearly 70 million ounces discovered in West Africa across 15 major deposits. So that's an average discovery of over 4 million ounces, 4 to 5 million ounces. Australia, it's about 19 million ounces over that same period. And most relevant is the grade. So the average grade of those discoveries, 1.5 grams in West Africa. And as I'm sure many of you will know, here in Australia, you know, really 1 gram is now considered as a high-grade open pittable deposit. So it's grade and scale, and that's the reason we're in West Africa. But Côte d'Ivoire is the shining light in West Africa. That's contributed to most of that growth over the recent years. It's actually rated the highest in any rating, but under the sort of Fraser's Institute, a standout in West Africa. In fact, it's one of the top 3 or 4 destinations in the entire continent of Africa. There. It has excellent infrastructure, and the other pertinent point is the rapid rate of developing a gold project. I mean, the most recent project to go into production, which is the 9th in Côte d'Ivoire, that was only drilled 4 years, and then within 4 years was in construction, and it's just gone into production within 6 years of drilling that. So just on our project, we're in the southern part of Côte d'Ivoire. We've got several other projects, but the project I want to focus on is the Afema project in the south there in red. I'd say it's the most ideally located project to develop in West Africa. We're very close to the city of Abidjan, the capital, which is a very developed town. It's a big project area, contiguous project area. In fact, it would be the largest contiguous project area in the country with over 1,200 square kilometres. And that's made up of a central granted mining permit of about 200 square kilometres, which is what I'll focus on now, but also about another 800 square kilometres in brand new exploration granted tenure. So we have very, very secure tenure. As I said, 2 hours drive out of Abidjan, which is a very developed city. A highway traverses the southern part of our project area, and that's the border crossing into Ghana. And also in Côte d'Ivoire, all the electricity is produced through hydropower. In fact, they export power to their neighbouring countries. And one of their main hydropower schemes, the AAMI scheme, sits on our doorstep there. So we'll have access to cheap national grid power. But that's not the reason we're here. It's the geology and what we're drilling right now. So our project area here, as you can see, covers the convergence of 2 genuinely world-class belts in Ghana, the Sefwi belt and the Asanka belt. World-class is a term that's thrown around, you know, quite loosely, but these are genuine world-class belts, as you can see some of these deposits. And this project's so interesting because it covers where these 2 belts converge into the southeast area of Côte d'Ivoire, and our project area covers 90% of that prospective area. So just zooming in on that, you can see the central granted mining licence in red there, and our granted brand new exploration permits around it. Highlighted in yellow there are those 2 structures. So running through the middle, where most of those labelled deposits sit, is what we call the Afema Shear, which is the extension of the Sefwi belt in Ghana that hosts deposits like Bibiani, Shirano, all plus 5 million ounce deposits. And then to the south of that, in yellow there, is what we call the Nima Lesser shear, which is the extension of that Asanka belt. And then out to the west there, we have a big intrusion with a lot of gold in soil anomalism sitting around that intrusion that hasn't been tested as of yet. So we have multiple structures here, which are all mineralised based on geochemistry, but only one of those structures have been drilled to date, and that's the Efema shear. And that's got about 15 deposits sitting within our project area along a 25 kilometres of strike. But we're focused on really 4 of those in red there, the Jonction, the Anuri, Asupiri and Woulo Woulo deposits. And that's where we've been drilling over the past few months. But there's a lot of exploration potential to come. And those 4 deposits will make up our maiden resource. But that will very much be the start of this project as we now start to step out and test some of these unbelievable exploration targets. And I'm very sure I'll be standing here next year and be talking about additional discoveries. So just looking at these deposits, here you can see the Efema shear. One thing to note, it's not one structure of 25 kilometres running through our project area within a granted mining lease. It's multiple structures. In fact, it's about 3 kilometre wide shear zone. So 3 kilometres by 25 kilometres. This is a major mineralised system. So see in the north is the Jonction deposit, as you can see, about 6 kilometres to the south, the Anuri deposit, which I'll touch on, and then a new recent discovery sitting on a north-south splay coming off that called the Woulo Woulo deposit, which sits under a bit of cover and it was just sticking out of the ground along a ridge, but there's definitely potential to find parallel structures there as we look through that cover, which is shown in blue there. So just looking at the Jonction deposit in the north, and bearing in mind these 3 deposits I'll take you through are 3 of 15 deposits along this 25 kilometre shear. But the Jonction deposit you can see there, most very high grade, that's a 3 to 5 gram steeply plunging chute there. It's already been well drilled out in the top 250 metres. Just taking you through a 3D model of it. I mean, most deposits fall apart as you increase the cut-off grade, as you'll see here. There's a genuine high-grade continuous zone to this. You can see some of those intersections there, like 40 metres at 7, 24 metres at 9, 14 at 10. These are quite unbelievable intersections. And you can see that high-grade core zone there. Everyone says their deposits are open. Well, I think this is, with 15 metres at 5 grams, being the deepest hole here. So there's plenty more ounces to be added at depth. And parallel, you can see the soil geochemistry there with a lot of potential repetitions of these high-grade plunging chutes. Very similar to a Shirano project in the same structure in Ghana, which is about 6 million ounces. That's just the Jonction deposit. Moving to the Anuri deposit, about 6 kilometres to the south. Once again, this has been drilled over a bigger strike length of about 400 to 500 metres, but also from surface only down to about 250 metres there. And this will come into a resource very soon. You can see some of these intersections and just running you through a 3D model on this one here. Once again, you see multiple plunging chutes here on this, and there's no drilling there between Anuri and Jonction, which is about 5 kilometres, but some of these intersections like 30 odd metres at 7 grams, 64 metres at 3, etc, 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 and once again, genuinely open at depth, and also that's the soil geochemistry, so it's pretty easy to see that we're going to add a lot more ounces here. Moving on to the third, the Woulo Woulo discovery, a recent discovery. This is a little bit different. It's a lower grade discovery, but a bulk zone of mineralisation from surface with a huge strike length. So there's now about 35,000 metres of diamond drilling into this on 40 metre spacing across 3 kilometres of strike. The average strike length of a deposit in West Africa is around 600 or 700 metres. So this is a significant discovery in its own right, and I'd say any of these deposits is a company maker in their own right. But looking at this, you can see some of these big wide zones of mineralisation. It's incredibly consistent in grade from section to section, but also across the strike, down the hole, the 1 metre samples are very, very consistent. I'm just running you through a 3D model on this one here to demonstrate. There's a 3 kilometres of strike and all the drill collars there. That's the interpreted wireframes, which will form the basis of a resource very soon. All the drilling that's been done, and just looking through these sections, like 40 odd metres at 1, next section, 59 metres at 1, 74 metres at 1.1, 59 metres at 1.5, incredibly consistent, 61 metres at 1.7, 87 metres at a gram at the northern end, recent hole 100 metres at 1.6 grams per tonne. So very, very consistent there. So interpreted block model, and then interpreted mineralised envelope there. Then that's just the start. So those 3 deposits will form the basis of a resource that I said we'll be publishing probably this month in a few weeks' time, which will be a very significant resource and put this on the map, this project in West Africa, where we're talking about, you know, multi-million ounce projects to be relevant in West Africa. But that'll be just the start. All of that comes from one structure, and as I said at the start, we've got multiple structures here to test. This is our project area, and what you're looking at there is 1,200 square kilometres, so it's quite zoomed out. But we have this other structure to the south there. We've got 20 kilometres of strike of the extension of the Asanka Belt in Ghana that hosts deposits like Obertan and SA, each of plus 5 million ounce projects. And that runs through our mining licence into our southern recently granted exploration permit there. It's been soil sampled already, it's been trenched, and we have walk-up drill targets to that. Plus we have these anomalies to the north, such as Coffer Crow, Bafia, Ayami, sitting around this big intrusion, so intrusive, related or hosted targets here. So we've got probably a dozen targets that I could run through, and once again, each of these exploration targets I think would make up a pretty compelling exploration story. But just to give you an example on one, so along this Anima Lesser Shear here, we've got 10 kilometres of undrilled strike here that's been soil sampled with several kilometres of plus 150, 200 ppb soils that have been infilled and ready to be drilled, and then trenched with results like 13 metres at 3 grams, 28 metres at 3. This is an artisanal or all-piage mining site here, and what's relevant here is they're not mining just a little vein, narrow vein, or a couple of quartz veins. They're mining the entire hill across strike of about 50 metres of mineralisation, and this runs for tens of kilometres through our project area and hasn't got a drill hole into it, but trenching results of 20, 30 metres at 3 grams. We'll be drilling that in the coming weeks very soon, and that's why I say I'm very confident that beyond our resource that we announce very soon, we'll also be, won't be long, in the next 6 months or so, I'm sure that we'll be announcing further discoveries. So just to summarise, we're well funded. We've got $18 million of cash in the bank. We're probably spending just over $1 million a month with 2 rigs operating at the moment, so it's a lot of drilling results. We're in what we consider to be the premier jurisdiction of West Africa, where, you know, there's no better place in our view to be looking for world-class gold deposits. The team has a proven track record in discovery, taking projects through feasibility, and everything we've been involved in has ended up being a mine, and this will end up being a mine. We have very good news flow coming out with a JORC resource coming very soon, which will be coupled with metallurgical test work across each of the deposits that make up that. And then, as I said, that resource will continue to grow. Just quickly touching on the board and management team, as I said, probably most relevant here is our technical team. So Elliot Grant, Rob C, and Zombo. These are the 3 guys that are, you know, working up our targets, planning programs, executing those targets incredibly efficiently and quickly. As I say, we've had this project 4 months. We've delivered 15,000 plus metres of drilling. And within 6 months, we'll deliver a significant resource. And these guys have all been working in West Africa for a substantial part of their career. And they've worked across several West African projects, and I'd encourage you to ask them, you know, what they think of this project relative to some of those other very successful gold operations in West Africa.